I've elongated my breath and taken my body to the extremes only to choose peace the entire time. When I went to go get my labs done, and then they tested the rate at which I'm breathing, they were like, wow, you have the lung capacity of an Olympic swimmer. And I don't even swim like that.
Welcome back to Mulligan Brothers. Today's video, as always, was sponsored by Huel. I'm drinking Huel Black Edition, which has 26 vitamins and minerals, 35 grams of protein and slow release carbs to make sure that I can stay satiated and proteined up whilst I make these documentaries. If you want to find out more about these, go to the link in the description. I'll talk about them a little bit later on in the video. Yes, I think diving into the preparing yourself for the day, I think super interesting. We can create a really nice piece around it as well. But what does it look like and what's the reasoning behind each thing?
So I love gamifying my life. Like when I have some type of schedule or ritual or something, I can just do the same thing over and over and over. But if I know it produces a result, now I'm like, I tap into some kind of universal secret. And, you know, I read a book called The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, and he was talking about like how you have the 20-20-20 formula, 20 minutes of intense exercise, 20 minutes of reflection, and then 20 minutes of growing your mind. And I was just like, man, I just started to build upon that. And I started to wake up earlier, go to sleep later because I'm less productive the later and later it gets, especially when you have a family and you have a kid. It's like a whole thing. I started to go to sleep earlier, and then I started to wake up earlier. And I realized that when I would wake up and nobody else was awake, there was just like this unwritten secret where I felt more connected to everything. Like no phone, no computer. It's just me and whatever thoughts are on my mind as soon as I wake up. And so I was playing around. I always like to test things. I'm playing around, and when I was single, I would wake up at 5 a.m. and then I'd go running or I'd go do something, but I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I'd be like, oh, I wake up at 5 a.m. club. This was all a status thing. Then I was trying to do that, and then my wife, you know, you get married, you'll start to see what your level of personal growth is, especially when you're married to a powerful woman. The dynamics started changing, but I started trying to operate like how I was operating when I was single while living in my house. But then there was this other person that had needs, wants, and desires. And I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to work if I know she's my person, but like, I don't think people realize partnership is collaboration. Partnership is not doing it the way you used to do it. And I'm just speaking a lot about this relationship because a lot of people don't get in it because they feel like they're going to miss out. Well, you know, Napoleon Hill says nature never takes away anything without replacing it with something of equal or greater benefit. The greater benefit was who Blair is to me started changing the way that I look at life, the details inside of the details. And so she had needs, wants, and desires by how she went to sleep and how she wake up and how much time she wanted of me. And I was like, well, I got to figure out a way to adjust. So I started to wake up earlier, you know, and I went from like 5 a.m. to maybe like just 5 minutes before. I was like, I just need a little bit of time for myself. Then we had a baby. And then a baby is, you never know when the baby's going to wake up. And then we got her on a sleep schedule, and then she'll wake up around 6:30 or 7:30, sometimes 8. But I need, me personally, an hour and a half to 2 hours of alone time. Just me by myself. I started noticing that I was better safer and more joyful to be around when I served myself first. Most people serve from their exhaust, and they give their wives or they give their husbands their scraps and wonder why the relationship goes to shit. I wasn't willing to play that game. So in the same fashion of creating a game that I actually like playing, I was like, well, what if I got up earlier? 4:20 made sense. I totally forgot. 4:20 was my dad's birthday. And so it on a deep subconscious level had a spiritual meaning for me. So I wake up at 4:20 in the morning, and I know that when I do something physical, it boosts my serotonin, lowers my cortisol levels, which is the fear hormone. And when I do something spiritual, like pray and meditate, it raises my vibration. And I know when I'm learning something, it expands my mind. So I built off of Robin Sharma's practice. And at first, the baseline was the 20-20-20 formula. And then anytime I get bored, I need to find something else to challenge me. Because if I get bored, that's where the freaking weeds don't need anything to grow but time. So the weeds of your mind, it will overtake your mental garden if enough time goes. So I was like, what's the next challenge? Then I found this challenge of, let me see if I can just start training my breath different. So I wake up in the morning, no lights, because I don't want to mess with my circadian rhythm, and the radiation belt doesn't go up till some hours. And so if it's in the dark, then I'll be in the dark. There's no street lights. And at first I'm like seeing glowing eyes, and I go running, I'm seeing glowing eyes. I'm like, oh, what's that sound? And I was like, ooh, this is my new challenge. What if I could adjust to the night? And then I started adjusting to nighttime and the little creatures that are running. And then the more and more I became calibrated to the darkness, the more and more I became one with all of it, one with the trees, one with the sounds. And all of a sudden the sounds go away. And I'm like, all right, cool. Then I was like, what's the next challenge? Because that became so easy for me. The next challenge was, okay, how can I test my breath? And I stopped breathing through my mouth. And I started, breathing through my nose. And, I've run 64 miles over a mountain at one time. I stopped twice. Done all kind of triathlons and marathons and freaking Ironman, half Ironmans. And I always had this specific breathing pattern. I was like, well, let me do something different that I never done before. Let me only breathe through my nose every 3 steps. Nobody taught me that. I was like, let me see what happens. I'm just always testing the market. So I go and run, and there's hills. And I'm like, I was like, I can't even get through 1 mile. That becomes my new teacher. And anytime I find something that knows more than me, I find a way to adjust to it. I'm like, let me see if I can get 1.5 miles. And I get 2 miles, and I'm going up and downhill, maintaining how can I stay as peaceful and as calm as possible while pushing my VO2 max up a hill. Difficult. After that one run, I come back home, argument with my wife, and all of a sudden I just go 2, 3, 2, 3. And all of a sudden the heat that normally comes up when I start to get angry, there was nothing there. I was like, I found another secret.
Today's episode, as always, was powered by Huel. This stuff has been absolutely crucial to my training and the world record I just broke, the world's heaviest marathon, where I carried 220 pounds for 28 miles. Yes, I achieved it, guys. It is done. This is what I was drinking, Huel Black Edition. It has 35 grams of protein, 26 vitamins and minerals and slow release carbs. And it's what I use in my training all the time. But don't just take my word for it. People like the hardest geezer ran across Africa drinking this stuff. It's absolutely amazing. And if you want to get exclusive offers and deals, go to the link in the description and you can find out more about their other products like their daily greens and their meals, which I eat every single lunchtime. Thank you to Huel for sponsoring the video, and let's dive back in to the episode.
So for the last 2 years, Monday through Friday, I wake up at 4:20 in the morning and I go and I do life force training. I go, you've heard of breath work. This is breath training. I will take my body through extremes and find the quickest way that I can find a state of peace in my breath. And no matter what, and I just keep doing it and I keep doing it. And what I noticed was they measure lifespans based off of heart rate. This is lifespans. Right now, it's probably at 70. I think it's some crazy number like 69, 72 years. But they base it off the heart rate. When I went to go get my labs done, and then they tested the rate at which I'm breathing, they were like, wow, you have the lung capacity of an Olympic swimmer. And I don't even swim like that. But they're all, and I'm like, the only thing that I've done is I've elongated my breath and taken my body to the extremes only to choose peace the entire time. They're like, wow. So what I ultimately did was I elongated the capacity for my lifespan because I'm not breathing in the same template than everyone else. And anybody who's ever done fighting, they see punches and kicks long before because of the instincts that they've trained in their body. Then the average person, like, oh my God, and they start flinching. So I've trained a certain instinctual behavior in my body that has me pattern, and I'm not even operating off the same calendar because I don't operate off of the time and the lifespan breathability because I've elongated that. So now everything that used to go like this now goes like this. And it matches my heart rate. And I was like, well, I'll be damned. I found a freaking golden nugget. So I just call it life force training. And this is what I do. I will put myself through extremes and see how quickly I can find peace through my breath. And then I just keep creating games like that. And time keeps bending. Time keeps slowing down. It's a human-made thing anyways. And interestingly enough, it started shifting the way skin sits on my body, and I started aging backwards. Or I started tapping into the frequency of my natural aging process instead of being in my human-made, forceful aging process. So instead of calling it the fountain of youth, I call it the fountain of you, capital Y-O-U. And that's ultimately my mornings. You are born looking like your mom and dad, but you will die looking like your decisions. I do not care how much money you have, how much influence you have. Are you actually happy?